is for council members to review and discuss important issues, projects, and future council meeting agenda items. It's a work study session only and allows the council to hear input from city staff. No action will be taken at this workshop, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment. This meeting is streaming live on Glenville's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Glenville City Council Workshop Session of January 23rd, 2024. Meeting is held to order. Attendance roll call. Councilmember Aldamas.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Present.
Councilmember Tomchow.
Here.
Councilmember Turner. Vice Mayor Hugh. Here. Chairman's present. Councilmember Turner. If you'd take note if he comes in later. With that, we'll go right into our workshop session. Item number 1.
Sign building covered parking update.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. We have 4 items today on the workshop. First, we're presented by Don Bessler, our Director of Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps, Mayor, members of council. This is an item that you saw, a little over a year ago during the FY 23-24 budget process. One of the projects that we had identified was covered parking for the sign building, and you did put money into what is now the existing CIP and budget, and asked that we come back and give you an update in workshop, and so that's what we're here to do today. I'm accompanied by Edgar Felix. He is our senior architect for the city, and he works directly for Eddie Garcia, as you all know, who's be presenting a little bit later. Wanted to tell you a little bit about the site. When we looked at the site, there was really 2 big properties that are there. The one on the top left is the sign building itself with the orange proposed parking structures. And then the green area is actually the old Thunderbird Lounge that the city owns. And there are some surface spaces available or associated, I should say, with that property. For the purpose of our presentation today and our effort, we focused just on the sign building. That was the nature of the conversation that we had with you during the budget process. And so while we're showing that, we wanted you to know that we did look at it, but we really wanted to focus on what we had expressed to you we would be focusing on. As well, that property is being held for future investment by the city. Whenever we look at a project like this, there's a number of project considerations: safety lighting, the durability and ease of maintenance on the structure. The third bullet was pretty big. We want to develop a scalable design for future city projects, something that can be replicated pretty easily so that we don't either A, have to go out and re-engineer and redesign every time we want to do covered parking, or B, have a kit of parts that's so diverse and all over the place that we're stocking parts from multiple different vendors, and that's never a good business strategy. We did look at renewable energy as a possibility for a covered parking. That's a pretty common thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about the analysis we did just at a high level. We're always looking for the ROI, the return on investment, and we're looking for something that's typically less than half the useful life of the investment itself to be considered a feasible ROI. That's not a hard and fast rule. You'll find with performance contracting that sometimes you'll throw things in because you're touching a large, several campuses or large buildings within a campus, and once you start tearing into them, you want to be as thorough as you can. So, for instance, you might have a boiler would be an example of something that has a long ROI, but it might get rolled into a project because it makes sense at the time you're disrupting the project. But for today, we focus just on the ROI associated with the energy usage at the sign building and the ability to net meter electricity from the structure. There's really 2 options that we looked at, as I said. One was a non-solar and one was a solar shade. You can see the pictures here. Both are a cantilever design. The reason that we went with that, and you've seen some of the early designs for covered parking that had just 4 posts or multiple posts, and then the vehicle operators got to try to maneuver around those. So for ease of operation, safety, and maneuverability, we focused on cantilevered structures. This is where we talked, I mentioned that we looked at the solar versus the non-solar option. The box on the left talks about the non-solar option. Generally speaking, in rough numbers, these equate to about a little under $10,000 a space. The solar is as high as $25,000 a space, depending on the nature of the work that you have to do electrically, subground, in order to facilitate the installation of a solar structure. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but essentially the difference in cost for what you have as options is about $166,000 versus $418,000. We did some high-level analysis to talk about what you might be able to save in energy usage over the course of a 10-year window. Again, the ROI on this is 15.3 years. There's some assumptions there. Those aren't things that are within the city's control, but there's some assumptions that are out there. So again, that's the analysis that we did, which leads us to options. The non-solar option requires a lower initial investment of $166,000. It's a smaller scale project. The solar is a larger investment. It's a longer payback, and the ROI, as I said, is 15.3 years. And while I'm not showing it here, our recommendation would be to go because of the size and scale of this project with the non-solar option. And with that, we're looking for consensus, if there is any, to go forward. Again, this is already in the budget. It's significantly less the amount of money that you have budgeted.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I have a question on slide 5, where you show the depictions of the two different options. But so it looks like the solar structure would cover more parking spaces. Is that accurate, or that's just how it's depicted on the slide?
Mayor, Councilmember Tom Lachoff, that's just an image. That's not a specific design we have. I can see what you're saying where it shows that it might lay over two rows. That's not what's being proposed. It's simply showing
Okay.
it, the cantilever, how there's different kinds of cantilever.
All right, thank you. So basically, the shade the amount of shade provided would not differ between the two structures, between solar and non-solar.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Mayor.
question?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
down here, thank you. To that question, kind of, the angle that the solar covers would need to be installed at, some places I go and I see them at a very acute angle, which I think might be a distraction to everything going on in this area. So is that probably what we would anticipate here, that the non-solar would be a little flatter, enough to provide runoff, but not necessarily to maximum capture of the sunshine?
Mayor, Councilmember Turner, thank you. Yes, you're right. The solar options that you're starting to see in the marketplace have a knuckle. Some of them, not all of them, have a knuckle on it, and it allows it to track sort of with the sun to maximize that. That's not what's being proposed. And yes, you're correct. The fixed structure would have an angle on it so that we would have runoff for days like today when we're experiencing winter. And that's what it would be.
That 1 week of winter we get every year. And then another question would be, you in your material you supplied us, you indicate that the potential payback for solar would be 15.3 years. What would the estimated lifespan be for the solar canopy and all of that before it might need to be replaced or be obsolete?
Yeah. Mayor, Councilmember Turner, thank you. I should have said that. Generally speaking, the marketplace is saying that solar installations are good for 20 years.
Okay, that sums it up for me. Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Two questions. The first one is, did I hear you say, because I read here, develop a scalable design for future city projects. Is that you want to create a standard for parking covers going forward? Is that what you're referring to?
Mayor, Councilmember Odama, that's exactly right.
Okay, so I thought that's what it was, and that's really smart. I was at an affordable housing groundbreaking not too long ago, and the developer was showing me their covers. They made them taller. I'm not sure if that's worthy of you looking into. The reason being is, if we're going to create a standard, we have city vehicles that may visit that site that may have to park underneath there, like our lift trucks that, and just consider that. And then the non-solar, does that include lighting underneath?
Mayor, Councilmember Odama, it does, and thank you for the height
Yes.
recommendation. We'll
If
take a
yeah,
look
it's
at
just a
that.
recommendation. And then on the lighting, couldn't that, because it wouldn't cost that much to be, could the lighting for just that cover be solar?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, it could. We'll look at that, but, you know, we want to make sure we have reliability, and so then at that point, you're talking about some sort of a battery.
'Kay.
So we'll take a look at it.
Okay, just recommendation. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Melner?
Thank you. Yeah, I had the same question regarding the battery. If there's some efficiencies in using a battery that then could be used for like lighting the parking lot, that kind of thing, and would there be any benefit of doing that with installing a battery with the system?
Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, we can certainly look at that. We've used solar lighting in the city in various ways on pathways and things, so that's something we can look at. But as I said, for reliability, it's going to have to be a place where we want to make sure we understand what the battery implications would be and whether or not now we're married to replacing batteries. So we can do an analysis of that.
My second question, Mayor, regarding the rebates. Now, APS has credits. Are we eligible for federal credits, or are there any federal solar credits available?
Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, there are some federal renewable credits that are around. Some of them are funneled through the state, some aren't. We did take a look at that, and again, you'd have to apply for it. If you applied for it, that would buy down that ROI some, but again, it would depend on whether or not you could get it or not get it, and that's not something that we know for sure.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see the numbers with that application included, because I believe that could significantly impact the payoff, the ROI, which is 15 years is fair, but I'd like to see that drop a little bit further. Thank you.
Thank you. I concur with staff's recommendation to go non-solar. I don't believe that the cost of solar outweighs any kind of benefit that would be derived from that project. So I will support going non-solar. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Not a question, I was just ready to weigh in.
Oh,
I'm glad we went through this exercise, particularly seeing as what the numbers that we looked at or heard about first time to save space in the budget for. So I don't, as big a fan as I am of solar, I don't think these 17 spaces really warrant it and give us a return on the investment and make it this the right location for us to go into it here. And so I'm inclined to support the non-solar option that you've suggested. I think it would be wise for us to also look at that, what I believe is a city-owned parking lot adjacent to the law office. It's now going to be Bell Bank, and see whether or not covering those with the same non-solar option at this time would be a smart move for us, as long as we're down there doing it, put it all in one job. We may need that parking for court, or attorney's office employees or something down the road, and at any rate, covered parking is a premium, whether it's for the general public or for our employees. It's a good thing to have, and that seems like a logical place to add some. Thank you.
I just like to agree with I think with the size and scope of this project, I think solar's not necessary, so I'd agree with Councilmember Turner and Councilmember Clark on that. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. I want to just share with our staff and with our city manager, thank you, because back when this came to us, I wasn't very supportive of it. Some of us were not, because there was a $500,000 price tag, and we were like, yeah, no, this came last minute. So I value and you, the city manager, Mr. Phelps, because you consistently said it won't be 500, we're just a parking lot. And to the fruition of 166,000, that's a big difference. And thank you to our staff for bringing it to that. But I just want to recognize that you did say it would not be, and I really thought it was going to be 500, and I did not support it. But I do support this, and I do support the recommendation of our staff.
all right, so I'm just going to ask, do we have a consensus of the recommendation of the staff?
Yes.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, item number 2, please.
Heart of Glendale Neighborhood Recognition Plaques.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide the staff report for both agenda item number 2 and number 3 will be Tabitha Perry, our Deputy Director of Development Services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This presentation is different than what typically you would see me present before you. This presentation also required some interaction with the Historic Preservation Commission. So in 2016, a resident approached the city requesting consideration for recognition of the Heart of Glendale neighborhood. Today, staff is seeking a consensus to proceed with the process for installation of 3 plaques within 3 specific areas of the Heart of Glendale neighborhood. The neighborhood boundaries are south of Glendale Avenue, north of Maryland Avenue, west of 54th Avenue, and adjacent to Grand Avenue to the east. City Hall is depicted in yellow as a point of reference. There are 3 proposed locations depicted on the area map based on contributions in the downtown area and the city overall. The specific language for each plaque location was written, reviewed, and deemed acceptable by residents within the subject area community and those supportive of the proposal. Your packet includes exact language, so I will provide the intent of the language for each location. The first one is landmarked at Soretta Candy Company, located at the southeast corner of 54th Avenue and Glendale Avenue. The plaque location is within the right-of-way, representing the main access to the subject neighborhood and provides a narrative of the history of the subject area. Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, located at the southeast corner of 55th Avenue and Lamar Road. This plaque proposed location is on the facade of the church building. The verbiage reflects key events in the history as a chapel of the Catholic Church. Barrio Park, located at the southeast corner of 54th Avenue and Ocotillo Road. The plaque language is a tribute to the Hispanic veterans of Glendale who served in the military. These locations and proposed languages were presented before the Historic Preservation Commission and received approval to proceed. The Parks Recreation Department and the Recreation Advisory Commission reviewed and approved the Barrow Park language. Also, the Transportation Department reviewed for city regulations for placement in the right-of-way and deemed the proposed location on 54th and Glendale Avenues to be acceptable. Before you, and the next slide, are examples of existing plaques in the city. The Murphy Park and Glendale Business District most likely would be the design selected for the subject project. The project will be funded from the Planning Division's budget at a cost estimated at $13,000. Provided council gives direction to proceed, the next steps is to schedule the item at a city council public hearing, tentatively as a resolution, as we are still working these details out with the city's attorney's office. Following the final action by council, staff will proceed with installation projected by the June of 2024. With that, Mayor and Council, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mayor. So is this going to be an ongoing process? Is there going to be or is this just a one-time thing with these identified locations and that's the end of it?
Mayor, council members, as of right now, this should be a one-time But in the future, it is possible that there may be other neighborhoods that are beneficial for recognition for council's consideration.
Mayor, if I could, so what was the process with the Historic Preservation Commission? Were they given these three and they approved all three, or were they given 6 and approved all 3, or how did that work?
Mayor, council members, through the resident who proposed this project for consideration, the 3 locations were the locations that was presented before the Historic Preservation Commission. And we provided them with the history and why we believed that it was worthy to be recognized. So the commission looked at the location, evaluated the language that was being proposed. They provided feedback, some modifications that needed to occur. The proposals went back to the neighborhoods for considerations with the modifications that was identified by Historic Preservation Commission. And then we took it back to the commission to review a second time before they provided us with an approval to proceed.
So, Mayor, if I could, I'm just thinking, we have other sites in the city where this might be, an appropriate thing to do. So, Saguaro Ranch Park, some of the things in Saguaro Ranch Park come to mind, Manistee Ranch, some other places. So, I'm fine with this. I think we should honor the history, and I think this is a nice way to do that. But I wonder if the rest of the council would agree with me that maybe the Historic Preservation Commission could come up with some sort of process where this is an annual thing, where we get nominations and we add another spot and do another plaque every year or something like that. I just think that we've got way more to celebrate than just these 3 locations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I like the suggestion Councilmember Tomachoff just made. It also brings to mind that the city's has often given out an annual Ruth Sparks Byrne Historic Preservation Award, and I don't recall us having done that lately, so maybe we should make sure we keep that tradition alive as well. For today, I had a couple of comments. Our material included the actual proposed language for the plaques, which I'm quite happy with. The one suggestion is on the plaque for Cerritos. It opens in Spanish, which I think is great. And let me say that I think the Spanish history of Glendale has been unintentionally, not spitefully, but just unintentionally ignored for far too long, and I'm glad to see us moving forward with that. And I think whoever the resident was that came forward with this idea. But it opens with Bienvenidos y Barrio Corazon en Alma, which is welcome to the Heart and Soul Barrio. So I think we should say that so that those who don't read Spanish understand the precious words that are used there. Those are important words. I think that's what we're trying to get across, and either up there at the top or down at the bottom. But we should, I think we should make it clear that, because this plaque is telling how the residents here feel about their neighborhood, and I'd like for every English speaker to understand that right off the bat. And then the other suggestion I have is on the Our Lady of Guadalupe plaque. We have the plaque styles that are up here on the screen. There's also some plaque styles that are in our handout. I would think that this particular location would be especially good to have a photograph embedded in the plaque of the historic rock church that existed there up until the 70s or so, when it was taken down or burned or whatever, anyway, and to when this new one was built. It really is a testament to the members of that church that they had built that church with river rock by hand and taken care of it for so many years, and it's well worthy of, I think, demonstrating photographically. Thanks.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. I'll start with Councilmember Turner's request. Just for those in the audience and those who are watching, some know what I'm talking about. There are just some things said in Spanish that don't translate in English. And I feel comfortable saying that this group of individuals, who I know them, spent a considerable amount of time on the language. I understand that it may not be legible to some, but you simply have to Google it and it'll translate for you. But there's just some things in Spanish that just don't translate the same. Absolutely not. And I feel that we should not change this. This group of individuals went out to the community and shared with them their ideas and the reasons why, and I think we should respect that and leave that. And then secondly, this is just a snippet of the contributions of the Hispanic community in Glendale, from Thunderbird Park all the way to Camelback, as far west to Luke Air Force Base over to 43rd Avenue. Just a tiny bit of their contributions, and I feel that going forward, this group and others will start to bring to light those contributions that the Hispanic community made, not only at City Hall, because that's been an impact, but in our communities and citywide. So I'm really happy to support this. I don't feel we should change the language, and just some things just don't translate. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor? Mayor, Council, based on the comments that have been shared thus far, I failed to mention that the Historic Preservation also made a recommendation that if Council gave the consensus to proceed forward, at a later date, we can consider adding on a QR code that would give a little bit more detail about the history of these areas. But that will be forthcoming. This is the first step to getting the project to move forward.
Is your microphone on?
Am I on now?
Oh, you are.
I like the idea of the photograph of the Rock Church on that particular plaque. I think as for the language to be used, I think both should be used, English and Spanish, so that it is readily accessible. The explanations are readily accessible to the entire community. And with that, I think this is a great idea. I like Councilmember Tomachoff's idea of considering other locations on an annual basis. So I'd like to see you move forward, but with both languages and a photograph. Thank you.
What else? Okay, I guess we have to make the decision on the photograph. Is there a consensus, add a photograph to that plaque?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so you do have that. Do we have a consensus now with the photograph to move forward with the recommendation? There you go.
Thank you.
Question?
May I ask, is there a consensus to go back to the Historic Preservation Commission and ask them to outline a process to add other locations to this program?
I think that would be separate, wouldn't it, Mr. Bailey? Just a separate issue.
Yeah, yes, Mayor and Council, but to Mr. Phelps has indicated that we can move ahead and just do that as well and look into that.
Yeah. Okay, next item.
AN 260 PUD property.
Mayor, Council, this presentation is for a request for Council's consensus to proceed forward with an annexation application. The subject property is approximately 2.9 acres in size and is located at the southwest corner of Northern and Alsop Avenues. The subject project site is currently in the county with a zoning of RU 43, which allows for a single-family residence as well as some level of farming. Upon annexation, the property would take on the most compatible zoning within the city limits, which would be RR 45, which is similar to what is allowed with the county with the single-family residential and some level of farming. The applicant does not have a land user at this time. However, they are proposing to rezone the property for commercial use, which would require a rezoning application to C2, and like so would require a minor general plan amendment to be loop compatible land uses. The vicinity map shows that the subject property is approximately 12.5 miles from City Hall. Here's the current annexation map. The purpose of this current annexations map is just to kind of show you the proposed annexation application before you right now in comparison to other applications in the queue. Here's the annexation map that depicts the subject property, and as you can see, that is abutting the Glendale's planning area. And then I think it's worth noting that Alsop would be maintained and controlled by the county, and then Northern Avenue by City of Glendale. Here's an area map for more context. To the east and west of the subject site is single-family residential to the east, and then there's some level of single-family residential heading to the west. So staff is under the impression that the proposal to rezone it to commercial would be ideal for the location. And then if you look farther to the west, you would note that to the north, next to the Loop 303, would be the casino that is currently under construction. And then to the south is the zoo. Applied economics provide us with a fiscal assumption. Since there is not a end user at this time, they took a couple of different scenarios in consideration. The first one is if the site was constructed as a construction site, a construction office. The second one is if the site was to be developed as a professional office. And the third one being a general retail development, focusing on assumption of 50% for retail and restaurant and 50% being for services. So before you, what I'm going to present and talk about is the blended average for a combination of the construction office, professional office, and the retail center. So the building square feet would be at approximately 28,000 square feet. And then the jobs are anticipated to be at 110 jobs. One-time fees at $297,000 with an annual revenue less the expenditures at $63,000. Here's a different perspective with a bar chart. And once again, it shows that the annual revenue of $63,000 taken upon the blended scenario. Provided council provides a consensus to move forward, the next step would be for a blank petition, followed by the public hearing to be held for the adoption of the annexation, and then the annexation will go into effect in 30 days. And while the annexation application is being processed, the applicant will be working on the process and the general plan amendment as well as the rezoning application. And with that, Mayor and Council, again, I'm looking for a consensus to proceed forward with the annexation application. Thank you.
Any questions? Any statements? We have consensus for the staff to move forward?
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you.
Item number 4.
Downtown Campus Reinvestment Project Update.
Mayor, members of the council, here for the fourth item today will be led by our team and also with our team from Holly Street. This will be an update on the DCRP. And I believe Eddie is going to lead us out.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. I'll try this again. Thank you, Mr. Phelps, Mayor and Council. Just quick for the technicians, it looks like the screenshots are a little blurry. There we go. Perfect. Okay, past our technical difficulties. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is our construction update, and more so our design construction update. We are now into the construction document phase of the process. I feel like we were just here. So in November of 28th of November, we came by and talked about our design development process and where we were with GMP number 2. And then there was an update earlier this month from Mr. Phelps on some of the demolition activities that are occurring concurrently on the site. So I'm here today with Diane Jacobs, principal designer with Holly Street Studios, and our field general is Dave Sanchez from Oakland, who's managing the pulse of all the construction activities. We have essentially an exterior-centric presentation today, and we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the planning design of the garden level floor plan, and based on some feedback we received and input that you had with us in the last time we met. We also have an animation we'd like to share with you, and we would like to do some highlights on where we stand with next coming steps and some of the things we're doing from a communication standpoint. The biggest thing that we are seeking consensus at the end of the presentation on moving forward with the project as it stands, specifically also with the exterior design. We are in the process of detailing the exterior walls, and the masonry is really important, and for us to keep schedule, we'd like to be able to order that as quick as possible. So this was important for us today to present this. So with that, we'll walk through about where we've been and capture our goals again, and then walk you through how the exterior design of the project is coming together. With that, Diane.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to share with you, as Mr. Garcia said, kind of an update of where we are with the DCRP project. As always, we start our presentations with the initial goals to create a thriving downtown campus, an amphitheater that's a true destination, consolidate services to the community of Glendale, a state-of-the-art workplace, and a place that reflects the identity of Glendale. So having said that, today's presentation focuses on the downtown campus, a workplace, a few details on the workplace, and also Glendale's brand and identity, which is reflected in the elevation of the proposed and now under construction design. On the connected campus front, if we go to the next slide, you will see that right now what we're focusing on is the development of the landscape scheme for the west side of the site. The east side of the site, involving Valmatique Library and Murphy Park proper, is underway, but will take place as a future phase or in the current project, but is happening after we get the buildings kind of underway. You'll see that in this slide, we've dedicated just as much care to the landscape and the exterior spaces adjacent to the buildings as we will be doing with Murphy Park. And they are really divided into kind of exterior rooms, if you will. To the northeast of Council Chambers, we're calling that the North Plaza or North Council Plaza. Between the two buildings, with the removal of all the additional concrete and the elevator and things that were underused, we've created what's called the Council Garden at the garden level. The amphitheater is the primary exterior space for this area. And now with renovations of the mechanical system, we have a new entry plaza, which we're calling the entry plaza at Glendale Avenue. And then we have an entry plaza at Murphy Park. So not only are we adding additional landscape back, but these individual spaces will be also programmable and for use by the public as well. This is an overall view, kind of a site aerial from the east, kind of the northeast side of the site, and you can see kind of early sort of hints of where things are now being constructed or under construction. Actually, we're in demolition right now, but you see the amphitheater footprint, the council chambers, and the city hall as kind of complete picture of one unified campus, along with the parking garage and the street trees that will surround the campus as well. So in terms of identity, the thing that we're focusing on right now is a building that is, has a presence in the park. And we show this very long sort of section elevation to demonstrate the scale of the building, that it does have kind of a municipal presence, but at the same time is integrated with the scale and the fabric of the adjacent neighborhoods. We see the trees and kind of the landscape strategies as the connective tissue between the neighborhoods and the new building complex. And on the Glendale side, you'll see a little bit of graphics, artwork. It's sort of a placeholder for an upcoming kind of permanent piece of art that is of the municipal nature. We haven't really developed that just yet, but we've set aside an area for that. And you can see how on the west side, you can see the 2 layers there of the roadway along Grand Avenue. You can see how this building kind of, again, begins to integrate a lot better with the new scheme than the previous scheme to sort of be part of the civic presence of Glendale. The materials that we settled on after kind of extensive research, we wanted to create a more permanent feeling, a building that performs a lot better in terms of sustainability, and to use a material that's locally available and can be put together by local craftsmen. And we settled on a brick scheme for the outside, very modern in its detailing with a lot of texture and movement to create almost kind of a timeless skin that reflects the Arizona sunshine in different parts of the time of year and time of day, and a building that has kind of a contemporary feel, but at the same time sort of reflects what's there downtown. So you can begin to see in the upcoming slides, the animations to follow show it even better, but the idea is that a skin that is protective yet provides additional views and daylight into the building, and has kind of a variety of texture, almost like a corduroy texture, using the masonry at its best to push in, push out, use textures and different colors of a similar value, similar hue, kind of to create this enclosure that's still very open and protective, as I said, at the same time. And you could see the amphitheater over on the right side of the screen that is kind of growing up to the canopy that creates kind of this new theatrical experience in the heart of the campus. This elevation view reflects what you see from the amphitheater location from Murphy Park. You can see what's going on now inside the building for the very first time. You can see the patterning of the brick has some dynamic quality to it, where some openings are a little bit bigger all the way to the right. Those are the elevator lobbies. And the most important thing at ground level is that you will be able to go from one entry plaza to the next and see completely through the building, making it very easy for visitors and citizens to come through the building, take care of business, meet somebody, and understand and be part of the way your city government is at work. This view, again, is more of a 3-dimensional view of what it will look like from Glendale Avenue. Again, we've stripped back the landscaping just because we're focusing very much now on explaining what the materials of the building will be. You can see a temporary art panel there, and on that south side, it's heavily shaded with fins to mitigate sunlight, but at the same time, those are the break rooms, the employee zones, for folks to gather and work and break bread and have sort of other moments together as they look out onto the views of the city from the south. And the same thing you'll see on the north side, which is more kind of conference space. This is one of the very few additions to the existing structures, and this is what we call the executive session room. Some folks might not realize that when this body met in executive session, you were kind of in the back corner of the existing building. Well, now we created a room that's a little bit more spacious, might be more multi-purpose in nature, is securable. In other words, there's shades and ways to kind of create privacy, but at the same time, at the northwest corner of the existing council building, you have a moment so that when people drive into the campus, they see that there's work happening, and also you as a body can have daylight and have a better place to meet for council business. This image begins to show some of the strategies that we're working through to create a paving pattern that's a little more organic in nature, hearkening back to the origins of Glendale's kind of agricultural past. And at the same time, it's because it's in different pavers, it has kind of a pixelated image, kind of with embracing what is ahead in Glendale in a technological way. But in general, that we have inherited a complex geometry that we're having a little bit of fun with and adding some clarity and some kind of organic vocabulary to through the paving design. This shows an up-close view of how these patterns might manifest themselves as you come in through the building to kind of give the ground plane sort of a nice kind of weight to itself as you come into the glass-fronted lobby. So in general, across all of the many departments at the City of Glendale, we've been able to look at program requirements. We've been able to look at adjacencies and different needs of all of the individuals who work in this building, and have been able to achieve pretty clear organization that most folks, I think, are very happy with. There's last time we met, there were some concerns about the garden level, and we went back to the drawing board and present today a few solutions to some of those questions. So essentially, at the end of November, what we presented was a garden level where all your council members have equal access to natural light, have the ability to engage in dialogue with those coming to visit, and access to storage areas and conference spaces to the east, plan east of their offices. There were some concerns about kind of the separation of the mayor's office with the council offices, and the idea of the council having a conference space kind of closer to the bottom of the floor plan rather than up closer to the public, and a few other small details. So we looked at this again, and we came back with the following suggestion. In this new scheme, you see that the council offices are in kind of the dark blue shade, and they run, I'll call it plan north-south. As we all know, the building is tilted, so for purposes of discussion, I'll call the plan kind of north and south on this particular drawing. Those offices in dark blue have storage just behind them with access to the tunnel entry down below. And that leads to the parking garage, so there's easy access if your district requires some kind of storage. A lot of times council folks use that space. And to the north of that is the council conference room, and that is directly adjacent to the multi-purpose space to the right of that, which will allow you to have receptions, exhibits, meetings, whatever you feel necessary. It's only one structural bay, so it's probably about the size of this room, but gives you flexibility as the program allows for that zone. But then moving further back west, you can see the light blue zones are now in kind of an L shape, and the mayor's office is to the north of that. So now the mayor and council are part of one suite that can do their work together, have conference space, have double security at the elevator lobby, and card access on the west side entering into the space, and can be separate or together as the program requires. So if you go to the next slide, this is just a blow up of that area. It shows the council lobby, it shows the council suite running up and down, north-south, and kind of the mayor's suite running east-west, but connected by a collaboration space with offices flanking the edge to maximize natural light for when folks come to visit. And you have events and other needs within your spaces. If you look to the lower portion under where it says council lobby, we have a couple little labels there. We were looking at options for what to do with that space. It turns out that there is an additional office space there, and after meeting with the city manager, Mr. Phelps suggested that be the home for the city attorney, who should have a space within this council suite with direct access to city council as well. So either way, not just on this floor plan, but on all of the floor plans, we have designed this building for flexibility. So we'll continue to reiterate that these offices can be interchangeable and used for a variety of purposes, but each of the offices within the building have direct access to collaboration with open office spaces and flexibility as program changes, because as we all know, the one thing that's constant is actually change. So that's the solution there. One thing that we're very excited about that Mr. Garcia brought up is that we have a series of exterior renderings linked together by an animation that, even better than the static drawings, describes what is under construction today. Let's take a look.
Right this way. We got it.
So that is a little bit of a dynamic glimpse at what we're busy working on to finish at the moment. The update in terms of progress is that the design team, along with our partners at Oakland, are working to make sure that the project stays on budget as we continue our construction documents phase. Pencils down is coming quickly, March 1st. What our colleagues at Oakland have told us is that in order to keep the schedule moving forward, since we've all settled on, or we're recommending a masonry package, we will be reaching out to you to gain consensus for the order of this masonry. While we finish up our drawings, which will go to permit as mentioned on March 1st, Oakland will then take that information, add additional kind of fidelity to the budget and the pricing, and we will come before you again in May for the GMP for that next phase, which will start the construction in earnest and, of course, kind of close out the demo phase, which we're in right now.
In the interim, we've also have updated our website to include not only the site logistic animation that we shared back in November at the start of the demolition phase, but it's informative in sense of how all the constructions will be sequenced throughout the period of time. To the left, we've also added a live camera view. So if anyone in the public or within the city would like to click on it, they can see a live view in real time. There's also a time-lapse animation that's also being recorded for the entire project. So if you have a moment, take a break, want to see what things are doing at the City Hall, you can see all the activity going on. It's a lot of fun watching the trucks and all the various equipment going around the site. This is what Dave gets to do every single day, and he's working with his team diligently to go floor by floor. So it's quite a bit of work and a lot of activity right now. Again, we want to keep pace with construction, so the design is as a key milestone point. And again, we're seeking consensus on being able to move forward with the masonry. With that, we'll open up for questions.
Comments, questions? Go ahead.
I didn't mention this before because I didn't think about it before. First of all, I love the exterior materials that you're presenting. And I think that using as much texture and variegation of the materials will go a long way in making the exterior of the building as distinctive as possible. I didn't think of this before, but I did when I was looking at these animations. I don't know if there's any opportunity for straight shade structures anywhere. I thought particularly of the amphitheater seating arrangements that people value shade in Arizona a great deal. And I think it will be years before these trees that will be part of the landscape will be mature and be providing much shade. So I don't know where it would be appropriate to consider shade, but I would think wherever you might have gathering spots within the scheme of the whole package, you might consider incorporating some shade structures. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Consensus?
Do we have consensus?
Need consensus.
Well,
Exterior.
consensus? Yeah, it looks like you got it.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. City Manager's report.
Good afternoon, Mayor, again, and members of the council. I've got just two quick items on my update. The first, a few weeks ago, the city of Glendale was notified that we've yet been awarded another grant, this one in the amount of $450,000, and it's from the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, and it's part of Arizona's Water Conservation Grant Fund program. If you recall, the council approved last year a more aggressive water rebate program, which really encouraged our citizens to make smart decisions as it comes to water consumption. And the program includes both the indoor and outdoor water conservation for residents and businesses. And those examples would be things like low water toilets, clothes washers, cooling tower technology, converting grass to zero-scape conversions, efficient landscape, et cetera. And so we have an additional $450,000 of which to fund that program, because as you recall, the council wanted to increase the amount of the rebates to get more traction with our citizens. And so again, we applied for that grant and we received $450,000 to support your program. We just got a chance to see the live camera for the DCRP. However, we have another camera opportunity for you. As you know, the construction continues to go on with the Via Resort and the Mattel Adventure Park. And one of the really cool features of the Mattel Adventure website is they now have live webcams that will allow you to see the progress of the entire project. And they also have a feature that will allow you to see the time lapse of what's been going on. So I thought you'd be interested in seeing that. So if we can make this work for you, this is what's available. We'll make sure you get the link to this, and make sure you can also get it out on your newsletters if you want to let your citizens and residents know. So again, we'll make sure you get that link on it. A lot of activity going on. I understand right now they've laid most of the foundations for the really large second roller coaster at the Mattel Adventure Park, and so you should start seeing the actual physical structure go up now that they've got the pads all put in place. And I talked with the developer late last week. They still believe that the first phase, which will be the significant part of the development, will open later this year in December. So they're still moving forward on that in a very aggressive manner. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Thank you, Mayor. No report today.
Thank you. Council item special interest. Council makes special interest opportunity for the council to indicate topics that they'd like to have discussed. Future workshop. Councilmember Aldama, have you any?
None at this time.
Councilmember Clark?
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilmember Milner?
Nothing today, Mayor.
Councilmember Tomachoff?
Nothing today, Mayor.
Councilmember Turner?
Not today, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Nothing, Mayor.
And I have nothing myself. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
I so move.
I have a motion. I have a second to go into executive session. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, vote nay. Here, you guys have it, do have it. Council meeting is recessed for executive session.